I've never been one for funerals. My mother passed away while asleep after battling leukemia for 5 years. I was destroyed when I found her eyes wide open, her body stiff and cold. While I was sleeping in the room adjacent to hers, she was dying. That's kinda hard to take in. But I couldn't grieve, not yet. I had to stay strong for my brother, who was a mere 11 years old. He was attached to our mother at the hip, so he took the news really hard. He's slept in my room every night since. He can't even walk past Mom's room without breaking down. Luckily, our mother left us a will. The deed to the house is ours, along with an inheritance. I don't want this money, or the house. I just want my mom back. Isaac, my little brother, he wants to move out of the house. He says it's not the same without her, and it kills him to stay in it. Of course, being his older sister, I don't want to act irrationally. We need to sell the house first. Then, and only then, can we move out of the tomb that captured our mother. So, we planned her funeral. I wanted Isaac to be as much a part of it as I was. Mom would have wanted it that way. My dad, that joke of a father, he didn't even flinch at the news. He said it was bound to happen, right in front of Isaac. He has no soul. He's a true sociopath. I had a feeling after the funeral he would file for legal guardianship of Isaac. Sure, in the justice system, he had all the right to do so, but if you knew the monster eating away at his conscience, you would comprehend why he is no fit parent. He shouldn't even be allowed to own a fucking hamster. The entire time I stared at my mother's body inside the coffin, I thought about how her pride and joy would be given off to that monster, the one I was forced to call my father. Isaac clutched at my dress as he cried uncontrollably. Poor little guy. This isn't even half the battle ahead of him. My father didn't even come to the funeral. Why bother? It's just my ex-wife and mother of my children who died of cancer, right? No big deal. It almost clenches at my heartstrings, but I can't allow it. I can't allow myself to break down. Not in front of Isaac. After the funeral, we went back to that tomb of a house. Isaac hurried off towards my bedroom, and I made my way down to the basement. Once I closed the door behind me, I fell to the ground. Everything I held back at the funeral, everything I had locked up for years, came spewing out of my tear ducts, down my cheeks, and onto my dress. The mascara burned my eyes as I cried so intensely I almost forgot to breathe. Suddenly, my sadness became anger. I punched at the wall, not caring that I was hurting myself. I couldn't stop, until I heard laughing. I quickly looked around the room. Silence, darkness, nothing. Then I heard heavy footsteps. They were coming from upstairs. Being that Isaac only weighed about 80 to 90 pounds, I knew it couldn't have been him. So I ran up the stairs to find the alarm still set and the front and back doors still locked. I exhaled deeply, wiping away the mascara stains from my cheeks. Still, those footsteps couldn't have been my imagination. The following weeks passed by easier than expected. Besides getting a letter from the court, I had been dealing with my new role as guardian easily. Isaac had begun sleeping in his own bed again and seemed to be recovering from Mom's death. He seemed happy and even asked if we could postpone moving out of Mother's house. He had this idea that it would look better for us in court, sensing that I owned the house and had plenty of money to care for Isaac, opposed to my alcoholic father living in a roach-infested apartment. His idea was a good one, so I removed the for sale sign from the front yard and I hid it away in the basement. Though everything seemed to be looking positive, I began to notice Isaac becoming more and more of an introvert. He spent most of his days in his room with the door closed. I could hear him talking whenever I stood outside of the door, invading his privacy. I know kids his age have imaginary friends, but whenever I listened in on his conversations, I deemed it a little strange, eerie. He talks about the court situation often, asking for advice from his friend. I often at times catch whispers of a voice that's not Isaac's, one that sounds a lot like our mother's. But that's just silly. Mom's dead. Isaac more than likely talks in a high-pitched voice as a coping mechanism to cope with the loss. I began to notice that days could go by without Isaac even showering or eating. He is so fixated on his room. It's to the point I sometimes have to burst into his room to find him sitting, cross-legged in front of the closet door. The door is always cracked open, as if something had just crawled back inside before I invaded the room. Isaac always throws a tantrum, yelling at the top of his lungs that I shouldn't have ruined it. What is it? Lately, whenever I prepare dinner, he no longer wants to eat at the table. He says he has important stuff to do before he kisses me on the cheek, rushes upstairs like a bat out of hell. I just find it odd that he's changed his mind about the house. He's always been frightened of the basement, but somehow he's overcome his fear. I wake up in the middle of the night and catch him walking down into the basement. He seems to be arguing with his friend. Isaac didn't want to go to the basement, but the voice kept insisting that he come. Because I couldn't be caught spying on him, I followed from a distance in the darkness, as I listened to his small footsteps climb down the stairs to the basement. As usual, he conversed with the voice that, without a doubt, was my mother's. I knew it was, though all logic would suggest that it wasn't. I suppose Isaac could have been recording Mom at some point, but I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but what other explanation could be plausible? I don't want to believe that there was something else using my mother's voice. I could go on paranormal sites, at looking up things that crawl in the darkness and coax little children into becoming antisocial, but that would mean I've completely lost my sanity. Sure, ghosts could be real, but until I see it, it doesn't exist. To be honest, if I were to go to court and say Isaac had been talking to aliens, ghosts, etc., they would look at me and throw me in an asylum. And most importantly, Isaac would be in the custody of a sociopathic drunk man. So, though I'm curious about what's going on, it's completely logical to believe that he is simply withdrawing from me because of Mom's death. Children grieve differently sometimes. Something within me told me to check up on Isaac as I finished washing the dishes. As usual, he hadn't been downstairs for hours. I wanted to know what was going on with him. If he had an imaginary friend, fine. But what if something else was going on? I know something else is going on. I could feel it in my gut. That voice, it was our mother's. It was impossible, and with the custody hearing so close, I could not risk Isaac being antisocial and stoic. So I mustered up the courage to turn the knob on the door to his room. As it creaked open, I realized how quiet it was. No talking, no laughter. Strange. But it all made sense once I walked into the room. It was empty. No Isaac, no imaginary friend, just the closet. It was cracked open just as it was the countless times I caught Isaac sitting cross-legged in front of it. I went into a panic, shouting his name at the top of my lungs. Frantically, I looked in every closet in the house, under every bed, and inside of every cabinet. Nothing. He just wasn't here. Finally, I had to call the police. The operator informed me that I had to wait 48 hours to file a missing persons report. Because Isaac was at the age of runaways, they didn't deem it necessary to panic yet. But I knew Isaac better than anyone else, including my mom. He would never run away. Just never. So, reluctantly, I called my father, believing maybe he coaxed Isaac out of the house. But once he answered the phone, I knew it wasn't him. He was pissed drunk. Too drunk to plan out anything but his next visit to the bathroom. I didn't know what to do. I did everything a parent would do if their child went missing, and having to wait, it only made my anxiety peak. Where did he go? Did someone take him? I couldn't help but think back to the footsteps, the laughter, conversations, the open closet door. Perhaps some sick fuck preyed on Isaac. Though he's a smart boy, he's still a little boy. Naive, indecisive, easy to manipulate. But no one could get into our house unless invited, and Isaac didn't know the alarm code. Therefore, he couldn't have disabled it. No one could get in without the alarm sounding. No one without that code. So they had to have been in the house already. In the shadows, perhaps? Hiding in his closet? No, it's not possible, is it? With my thoughts scrambling to find an answer, I ended up falling asleep in Isaac's bed. When I woke the next morning, I heard laughter again. Instinctively, I jumped up, rushing towards the noise and hope it would be Isaac. But the laughter was coming from a place that Isaac was absolutely terrified of, the basement. It was unlikely he would be down there, but I had to look. For God's sake, he's my responsibility. So I hurried down into the basement, flicking the light switch, which barely lit a quarter of the room. "Isaac?" I called. "Over here," he said. I rushed towards the direction of the voice, realizing if I took a single step forward, I would be engulfed in darkness. "Isaac, why are you in the dark?" I questioned. An unrecognizable laugh threatened my ears. I stepped away, back towards the stairs. "Come get me, sister," he said innocently. I continued up the stairs slowly,